There were many times when she would scream at him because he didn't bring her more onions and even poke his cheeks for it. And what would he do? He would sit on the wall outside and crack jokes on the passers-by while massaging his feet with oil. He lived by a simple principle: do what you should, then let the rest drift away with oil in hands. That is my grandfather. And the woman who I witnessed poking him hundreds of times is my grandmother. I grew up in a home where the matters of the day were decided by this lady, whose anger and tantrums were popular all over the village. She was the eldest daughter of a man of repute, and her marriage to my grandfather, who comes from a humble background, was a union I have often thought of. How did my great-grandfather decide to entrust his favorite daughter to this almost nobody from another village? And looking back, no one could have suited her better. My grandmother, who could neither hear nor speak, was fortunate beyond words. Being the eldest daughter of this well-known personality, she carried the pride of her lineage all her life, reminding my grandfather of it daily, with the elegance of her hands and expressions. "You had a job because of my father. Don't ever forget that," she would sign to him, her gestures sharp and resolute. "This is my house. I decide things here," she declared often. For someone who could neither speak nor hear, she held the utmost authority at home. And my grandfather? He would laugh it off with a twinkle in his eye, responding with words he would use only for her. Some playful obscenities that sounded more like pet names. Love in their world was in these inaudible yet loud words. And only a few held the privilege of challenging her. My uncle, and of course, the incredible brooding Brooke. I still remember the day I proposed an idea to my grandfather when I was in 7th grade. "You're retired and you have money. Buy me a computer," I told him as we sat on the wall outside our house. "A computer? Now? Oh, that's impossible," he dismissed. But I was relentless. Back then, I was pretty strategic and willful about what I wanted. I wonder where all of those traits disappeared now. When reasoning failed, I turned to my grandmother with a face almost on the verge of tears, explaining the case in hands. "Do you really want it?" she asked, and I nodded. "Then it's settled," she announced, turning to my grandfather. "You are buying him a computer." "Are you mad?" He gestured back. "I just retired, cleared my debts, and finally have some peace. We can't afford it." He waved her away. But my grandmother delivered the final blow. "You retired from a job my father got you." Not long after, I had my first computer, the first in our street, possibly the second or third in the village, and my poor grandfather took another loan, thanks to you know who. Their life together was a choreography of arguments and tantrums. Whatever he brought home, vegetables or saris, would first be dismissed, tossed aside with disinterest. Yet, on another day, she would wear the sari and ask, "It looks nice, doesn't it?" "That's what I've been saying all along," my grandfather would answer, exasperated but amused. Their marriage also had a charming innocence, a bond with love and acceptance. It's a kind of companionship that feels like a relic, a treasure of days that are now gone. In today's hurried world, we often question if such enduring companionships are still possible. Perhaps the answer lies in the simplicity of their love and togetherness. One thing that has been consistent in the married life is conversation. Can you imagine a wife who can neither speak nor hear, and her husband, who was frequently yelled at, are one of the best married couples I knew in person? No matter what arguments they would have, they never let it affect the other matters of the day. She might scold, yell, or even poke his face, but minutes later, she would walk up and ask him to fetch brinjal for lunch, and he would do it without protest. The married life has been one long conversation, It had its pauses, but it always resumed. I end this letter with a smile, remembering one of my grandmother's playful pokes, after which she would turn to us and giggle. There's a certain fondness to writing about your own experiences, whether you put it out or not, how it makes you feel and how it makes you pause the scribbling so that you can complete the recollection of a memory, and the smiles it brings with it is a joy that is exclusive to us, the writers and storytellers. If this marriage was a firecracker, I grew up witnessing another which I would call a whisper. But that story, dear friend, is for another letter. Your friend, Brooding Brook.